So the energy that has been coming through lately has been intense, chaotic in a certain way. Yesterday was a portal 5-5, and a lot of the energy that came through was just intense, and it was about exposing all of the hidden layers underneath the surface, like fear programs, patterns, and just things that we've been carrying that does not serve us and cannot go with us into higher octaves of frequency. So there are many of us that have been calling in things, and we call in things or we pray for things, and we say we want this greater experience beyond what it is that we're currently experiencing or undergoing, when we want to get to the next level. And sometimes we don't recognize what that entails in fullness, and that might require us to orchestrate ourselves in a particular way where we are able to hold whatever it is that we're calling in, because energetically that is how the universe operates. It's not going to give us anything that we're not able to hold, that we're not able to solidify or anchor in our field. And so for most of us, when we're calling something in, we don't realize that, okay, now you have to orchestrate yourself a certain way. It might call for you to do certain things where you have to release things, whether that's a belief systems, people in your life, habitual patterns, ways of being, things of that nature. Now, to a degree, we do get that or encompass that mentally to some degree, but we don't recognize sometimes the fullness or the magnitude of it, and how energy operates, and and how you can't really acquire or assimilate that thing into your field until you're able to really match and hold the frequency in entirety. So that is something that has been exposed through this wave of energy, and just helping many of us to really see where we are lacking in certain areas of our life. Because another thing too is where we might feel like we are loving ourselves and we're encompassing self-love, but then and we are, but then there might be certain areas within your life or circumstance that where you are not practicing that. You might not be practicing it 24/7, or you may not be practicing it just in certain areas within your life. These are things that have been exposed as well too, because this particular fluctuation of energy that is coming through is calling for us to stand or be willing to step in a space that is more transparent, vulnerable, and fully authentic. And most people might think I am being authentic, but like I said, it just might be in certain areas where you're not always authentic, where you're not always transparent, or where you're not always encompassing self-love. And those areas need to be addressed. They need to be seen. They need to be recognized, and you need to be willing to make the changes. And like I said, make the cuts, or to release things, or to set boundaries, or stand firmly in certain areas. Just things that we need to be willing to encompass and willing to do. And so for me, this has been enlightening for me in a sense as well, because for me, I saw that, okay, I need to be more devoted. And it's not that I haven't had a certain level of devotion to anything that I do. It's that at this season in my life, because I have reached a certain level of expansion, the old formula doesn't work for this new level of expansion. So it's like, where I thought, okay, I was encompassing all of myself to some degree, I saw, okay, there's certain areas, that needs to be worked on. Or where I had one foot out in certain areas and one foot in towards the devotion path of, then I saw, okay, this season is calling for full on commitment, devotion. It's not something that, at that season in your life you could, formulate yourself in a particular way where it was working for you to have one foot in and one foot out. But now, because you reached a certain level of expansion, you can't use the same format. It's just not going to work. And that's what's happening to many of us. Many of us are still trying to do the same things and get different results, and that is basically what is occurring right now. You can't get the results that you are really truly seeking because the formula no longer works. It once worked before, but if you've already elevated and you've already elevated to a new level, upgraded, and you've reached a certain level of expansion and your field has expanded, your field is naturally calling for you to reassess and to reorganize and to look at things through a different lens and an angle, because now energetically it is calling for you to move differently, to act differently, to behave differently, to speak differently, to see differently. You know what I'm saying? Or just, these are just some examples. And for any of us that have made the higher timeline shifts, and when you're choosing to do away with the 3D matrix identifications and all of the layers of programs, you are really accessing or coming back to your full nature, right? But in order to do that as well, you will have to be willing to release all of these layers that are on top of you, because that's what the matrix does. When you come in, even before you get here, through your lineage, through your, when you're in the womb, before you get here, because it's a set of programs that the matrix is operated by, and they naturally program humanity and program humans to instill these energetic programs and values in their offspring and their lineage. So when you go and mate with someone and they having the same matrix programs and whatnot, it's just, we just constantly passing this stuff down and looping our own offspring and our lineage. So when I said in a previous video that about healing our ancestral line and healing our lineage by us choosing a different path or choosing to release these fear programs and all of these layers of false beliefs and illusionary programs and things that have, been instilled within us. When I was speaking on that, that's what I'm talking about. Like, this is how you heal your lineage and your offspring and your ancestral line as well. Even your ancestors that are not here. By us healing ourselves and doing this particular work and willing to let go of this 3D indoctrinated toxic nonsense, and get to the full layers that are underneath. We are setting not only ourselves free, but we're setting, everyone free, even the people around us, because your frequency is naturally going to, either trigger or, set someone else upon the right path within themselves, like undo the illusionary programs within them as well. Even if they try to fight it, they might need to get away from you, but if they not ready for it. But that's how it is. That frequency emits outward and we affect one another that way. The more you are expanding and getting to the full array and essence of who you truly are. And so there are many of us, and most of humanity, we are walking around with this identity that is not us. We really think that we know who we are, but it's like, no, you're not encompassing who you are, because it's too many layers and programs that have been instilled upon you. You have societal programs, you have familial programs, you have ancestral programs, you have religious programs. You have people in your circle that are placing projections on you day after day, and you're falling into the trap of accumulating or attaching these projections. We have gotten to a place where we are not really knowing who we are in totality and really seeing, because of all the layers of programs. So this wave of energy that has been fluctuating through has been bringing like chaos, in a sense where it is dismantling these structures within us. It is forcing you to look at yourself, to face yourself, to see the things that are coming up, see where you are not encompassing self-love, see where you are falling into particular patterns, and see where you are carrying distortions and things that don't belong to you, like in order for us to get underneath and get to the true nature of who we really are. So it's very much purposeful. I know it might be chaotic and intense. It's certainly not as pleasant as as I'm making it sound, because I've been experiencing it, and it is what it is, but it's a process, and it's something that we have to get through. And that's the thing. This journey is not all fluff. People want to not talk about the hardships or the things that the work and the effort and the input, and it's not all fluff. Yes, you're going to have honey and roses and abundance and all of these things. Those things are natural. They come. Yes. And you have your moments and your high moments and all that. Yes. But we got to start being honest, with ourselves. And that's what this wave of energy is about as well, too. Us being honest with ourselves and really seeing ourselves, because it ain't about nobody else. Nobody's living your path. Nobody is in your body. You're in your body. So the world, learning, and that's another thing too, learning how not to be so encompassed and ingrained with the world and what the world thinks and what the world wants and what the world is projecting or what the world is saying. And like really truly being honest with ourselves and seeing ourselves. You know what I mean? You don't gotta do it for nobody else, but do it for you, because you deserve it. You deserve to be free. You deserve to know who you truly are. You deserve to be in your essence and in your power truly, not no inauthentic, fake, matrix layered nonsense. Okay. So it's just part of the path. But I made this video just to speak on the certain wave of energy right now. And, for anyone that may be experiencing the chaotic energy that has been fluctuating lately, and the fear, anxiety, and that type of stuff, it is definitely very necessary to just allow it to be seen, allow it to rise, to be detached from it as well, and not just be neutral and detached from it when you're seeing it, because it's a lie, it's an illusion, it's a program, but it needs to be seen, it needs to be recognized so that you can release it, because that is the only way we release these things, unfortunately. I wish it was easy work where it was like we could just naturally be free of things without having to do the work sometimes. But part of the work is actually being courageous enough and honest with yourself to really see it, to look at it, to see it, and to recognize it for what it is. And then that's how it energetically starts to dismantle itself from your body and field. That's when the energy field does the work for you. But it first needs us to be willing to go through the process of looking at these things, recognizing it, seeing it, and then be willing to, have that energy loosened within our field, so that's how you release it, basically. So yes, this video was just for anyone. It does what it does for anybody, but yes, just be mindful of the energy right now, and don't run from it. Just see yourself. It's not about anybody else. It's all about you, so just see yourself, be honest with yourself, be transparent, be authentic about what you're saying, recognize it for what it's worth, and allow it to leave your field. That's that.